giant bazookas, candy monsters, and glitching out of the map.
The second episode of the Amazing Digital Circus featured some of the wildest things we have seen so far in the series.
I think I know the feeling.
And it definitely lived up to the hype. A lot of things were happening all at once, and it felt like if you blinked, you would miss something important. If you're not a crazy person who watched every frame in the episode, there are a lot of secrets Glitch might not want you to know about. They range from mysterious hidden locations to crazy NPCs, and it all starts with Caine. Caine as the creator of Candy Canyon. At this point, nobody should be surprised that NPCs in the Amazing Digital Circus consider Caine a god. He can fly, create magic portals, and cure the deadly glitch, so he is the closest thing to an almighty creator the characters have. Going into the second episode, we already knew that the Ringmaster was powerful, but we didn't know how powerful he was until Princess Lulilalu called him their god.
Sent to us by God to help us with our recent catastrophe.
There was even a stained glass window depicting Caine as the messiah of the Candy Canyon Kingdom. Knowing how crazy Caine behaves, we don't want to imagine the kind of things he gets into in his free time, but we definitely see him messing around with the citizens of Candy Canyon.
You have no idea.
What we know for sure is Caine made all the NPCs in the canyon so they could worship him, as you would expect from a tribe of savages. Being an all-powerful AI, it's not that surprising to see that Caine creates other NPCs who treat him like a god, but it's the fact that he can tweak them as he chooses. He said this in the first few minutes of the episode while trying to convince Zooble to partake in the latest adventure.
I'm testing out a new AI in this one! It should be 57 times more immersive!
That would mean that Caine destroys the NPCs just as fast as he makes them. With the way Caine treats his captives, we strongly believe he has killed off a lot of characters we know nothing about, so it's only a matter of time before we get a dark revelation uncovering all his deeds, the deal with Zooble's absence. For the second time in the series, Zooble doesn't seem to care about Caine's adventure for the day, and we find that really weird. The show plays it off like it's nothing, but Zooble gets a new look, and if you didn't notice, you might want to compare her current look with how you remember her. As we have talked about in a previous video, it probably has something to do with getting taken apart by the Gloinks in the pilot episode. We guessed that Glitch would show us the Zooble box, where she gets new body parts. But that didn't happen. Her new look includes a stripped block and different antenna, but that's not the most shocking thing about Zooble in the show. We already knew Zooble hates going on Caine's adventures, but this time, it felt like the character couldn't be forced to partake in anything. Even after Caine made a portal to Candy Canyon, he pushed Jax and Kinger through, but left Zooble to herself, which points to something hidden going on. While we were racking our skulls trying to figure out where Zooble was left behind, we realized that she was busy setting things up for Kaufmo's burial, and as tough as that sounds, we really needed that. It was a solemn ritual that proved that they'd been holding burials for all abstracted characters in the cellar. We might not know how many characters have kicked the bucket since the Amazing Digital Circus opened shop, but it's nice to know that they hold a little ceremony to remember their fallen companions. Self-aware NPCs of Candy Canyon Kingdom. Speaking of companions, we get to see the Candy Canyon Kingdom for real in the second episode. And even though we expected the kingdom to be full of life, it blew us out of the water with its diverse mannequin population. We've seen mannequins scattered throughout the circus, but they all seemed like inanimate objects put there to serve as placeholders. That being said, the mannequin that knocked down Gangle's mask was clearly not a placeholder. It could communicate in clear words, and it even showed a sense of admiration as it dashed toward the crew once it saw Princess Lulilalu coming out of her castle. We aren't 100% sure it was the same mannequin Caine teased in the trailer, but it felt like that mannequin was different compared to the others. This makes us wonder if there are other unique mannequins scattered all around the kingdom waiting to be discovered. The other significant NPC that drew our attention was the desert rascal Gummigoo, who stole maple syrup from the princess. Gummigoo started out like the other NPCs who didn't know they were in a simulation, but he went from that to almost having an existential meltdown. After he got glitched out of the map, Gummigoo realized he was just an unimportant NPC stuck in a madman's world. He became aware of his situation, and like any sane person, he couldn't deal with it. Luckily, he had Pomni there with him, so it wasn't as bad as it could have been if he got there alone. Gummigoo can't have been the only NPC to discover that there was something wrong with his world. So we believe Caine has been secretly taking care of NPCs who discover they aren't really alive. And we know this because of something Ragatha said. If you want to know what it feels like to be part of a crazy community that loves discovering new details about the Amazing Digital Circus, you have to subscribe to the channel and smack that notification button to stay one step ahead. Ragatha's comments about NPCs. One of the funniest things in the second episode of The Amazing Digital Circus occurred right after the gang completed the mission and returned home through a portal. While trapped underneath the glitched map, Pomni bonded with the outlaw NPC Gummigoo, and it looked like our scared jester felt calm seeing someone else going through an existential crisis. For once, Pomni wasn't the one being consoled, and just when she thought she made a friend, Caine turned Gummigoo to confetti as soon as he stepped foot in the circus. Just as Pomni was about to lose her mind, Ragatha mentioned something about Caine reusing NPCs in the circus.
Caine sometimes likes to reuse NPCs.
And it's a small detail that reveals a lot more about the show. Seeing your friend turn to dust is probably the least traumatizing thing Pomni has seen since entering the circus, but it definitely threw her off balance. We already knew most of the characters Caine teased in the trailer wouldn't make it to the Candy Canyon Kingdom, but now we have concrete proof that it won't be the last we have seen Gummigoo. This also means other characters like Princess Lulilalu and the Purple Mannequin might also make surprise appearances in future episodes. It would be a shame if we only got to see Princess Lulilalu just once throughout the course of the series. Her appearance in the second episode wasn't all it was hyped up to be, so we are holding on to the hope that she has a badass role to play in future episodes. Gangle's little secret. Before the second episode dropped, Gooseworx teased us with the image of Gangle all smiles as she looked at Pomni, and we thought she was finally going to get some love, but we were so wrong. Barely 10 minutes into the new episode, a citizen of Candy Canyon runs into Gangle and knocks her comedy mask off. Most viewers might overlook the incident as a random mistake, but from what we can tell, Gangle is going to endure a lot more throughout the series. Gooseworx and the guys at Glitch clearly want to make the whole mask thing a recurring gag, where Gangle starts off all happy and goofy, but something out of nowhere trips her over and we get reacquainted with sad Gangle. That might sound bad at first, but it's nowhere near as bad as the torture Gangle endures at the hands of Jax during the truck chase scene. The most intriguing thing about the battle for the rig with maple syrup has to be the secret Gangle doesn't want Ragatha to know about. Jax used the knowledge of this secret to threaten Gangle into doing anything he said, so we believe it's a huge secret. Knowing how innocent Gangle is, it makes us wonder what she could have done to warrant such a response. We know it has something to do with a certain figurine, but Jax didn't give us any more clues. Hidden parts of the circus. In the pilot episode, we learned all about the void and how futile it is to want to go to another place in the Amazing Digital Circus. But the second episode gives viewers a treat in the form of the glitched location where Pomni and Gummigoo find themselves in. Even though it wasn't planned, the unlikely pair find themselves in a place that looks like the twisted mind of a psychopath. While most viewers were happy about seeing a place Caine didn't want the characters to see, we were blown away that it was even possible to get there in the first place. Anyone who has encountered glitched maps in video games knows how annoying they can be. But they also know that sometimes it can be used to their advantage. It's just a theory, but having access to places like that could help Pomni find a way out of the circus. Imagine a Pomni coming across a glitch that points to an exit or a way to take off the VR headset. It might sound like we are clutching at straws right now, but discovering the glitched location might turn out to be a blessing in disguise. You can't really claim to be a successful show without having crazy fans. And if there is one thing we have learned about crazy fans, it's to doubt their ability to discover all the secrets shows may try to hide. If you'd like to join the search for new hidden details, we have a lot more videos you should check out. And while you're at it, consider subscribing to the channel. What's the worst that could happen?